Oh, hello, brother.
Hello, and how does this day find you?
Ah, quite well. I was just reminiscing about that time we spent on the Enterprise with Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Of course, it was such an amazing time.
Oh, yes. Do you remember when he was walking through the corridors, and he, behind one of the doors, heard screaming? And he said, "Computer, open that door." The door opened, he walked through, and then he saw, straight ahead of him in a dimly lit room, Teal'c tied to a pipe, beaten, riddled with bite marks.
Oh, I believe we know where the bite marks came from.
Oh, I remember. It was none other than the great Blessed One Hammond, and Picard looked to his right. He saw him there. Hammond beckoned him in and said, "Welcome, Picard, old friend. As you can see, I'm preparing a feast. The meat is tenderized. I just need something to add a little more flavor." So he sent Picard on his way to find something to add to just the Teal'c dish.
And he went up to the bridge, I believe.
Yes.
Went up to the bridge, looked around, saw his friends, his crewmates. He saw Commander Data, Mr. Worf, and then he saw Wesley. Ah, yes, the boy.
Stupid boy.
Yes, quite stupid. And he said to Data and to Mr. Worf, "Come with me." And then he looked at Wesley. He said, "Wesley, I've treated you poorly in the past. I would like to reconcile. Please come with me as well."
Yes.
And of course, it was a trick. It was simply a trick.
Yes.
And he brought him. All four of them went into the elevator. They were going down there, and they all left the elevator, walking toward Picard's quarters. And they run into none other than Dr. Beverly Crusher, Wesley's mum. And they invited her along. And along the way, they even gathered up Geordi and Riker, and they all continued to walk through and into Picard's quarters. But when they got there, Wesley, of course, was shocked to see Teal'c there with bite marks and bleeding, and Hammond there, and they held Wesley because he was struggling to get away, and they began beating Teal'c, beating him severely and cutting him off with his Klingon blade, cutting Teal'c alive.
Forcing him to watch.
Absolutely. Wesley was shocked. And after they cut up Teal'c, they stuffed him into the oven. They had an oven there because they didn't believe the replicator would do it justice.
Oh, yes. Traditional style's best.
Absolutely. And indeed, Teal'c was stuffed into the oven. They shoved Wesley's face right up to the oven so that he could see what will happen to him next.
Yes, they made him watch Teal'c be burnt and cooked alive.
Absolutely tender, of course, and it would make a most succulent meal.
And they said, "Don't worry, Wesley, that's the main course right there for the feast." Little did he know he was the side dish.
Indeed, and what a side dish it was. And, of course, during the waiting period, Riker was playing his trombone. He's a very good player, actually. And Data, very intrigued, was watching on. And then once the Teal'c was done cooking, they took him out, fed some of it to Wesley. He, of course, had to be force-fed, but...
Yes.
He indeed was fed some of the Teal'c. He admittedly liked what he tasted because it was blessed. And, of course, shortly after they beat him severely, Mr. Worf was cutting him.
He went to work again.
Oh, absolutely. He had his work cut out for him. And they then quickly shoved Wesley into the oven alive, cut to bits, but alive. And I believe Beverly was very shocked. She said, "Oh no, my son."
"What are you all doing?"
Yes, and they all looked at her. Of course, she simply said, "Oh, you forgot the barbecue sauce. It's not a feast without it."
Picard slapped his head.
He said, "How could I forget?" And they put it all over Wesley. In fact, I think Beverly did it herself.
Oh, yes, before slamming that oven door shut.
Yes, and I believe she was the one who watched him most closely cook alive. And later on, I believe she said that she was very glad to have a son. Otherwise, this would never have happened.
I think everyone was.
And they consumed the meal. It was the most amazing meal. Data was absolutely intrigued. He turned on his emotion chip. It was the most incredible thing he has ever tasted. And Riker simply was happy to be there. And I believe Geordi said It was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen.
I'm sure it was.
Yes, indeed. And quite a day that was. It was